You are the size of a single cell, not in a way that comes with a tiny submarine and a cheerful guide. You are microscopic, unprotected, and you have exactly 5 seconds in each organ of the human body before moving to the next one. The question is not whether you will be impressed. The question is whether the organs will even notice you are there. So, what would 5 seconds inside every organ of your body actually be like? The answer is not what medical textbooks prepare you for. Each organ is its own environment, its own set of physical rules, its own relationship with pressure and chemistry and space. Some of them are extraordinary. Some of them are actively hostile. All of them are running right now, inside you, without your permission or awareness. This is what it looks like from the inside. Let's start where everything starts. The heart. People draw the heart on greeting cards. They use it as a symbol for warmth, for softness, for the most gentle human feelings imaginable. This is a profound misunderstanding of what the heart actually is. The heart is a hydraulic press that fires roughly once every second, without pause, without negotiation, without a day off in the entire span of your life. At cell scale, the interior during a contraction would not feel like a gentle squeeze. The walls, deep red, glistening, thick enough that you cannot see across the chamber, would slam toward you with pressure exceeding 120 millimeters of mercury. That is roughly the pressure inside an inflated car tire. Blood accelerates through the aorta at nearly half a meter per second, which sounds slow until you are the size of a cell being caught in that current. In 5 seconds, you experience 4 or 5 of these full compression events. Not because the heart is aggressive, but because this is simply what keeping you alive requires. The organ people associate with tenderness is, at scale, one of the loudest and most violent places in the body. It gets stranger from here. So, if the heart is a hydraulic press, what about the lungs? Soft, gentle, quiet. The lungs feel cavernous from the outside, a pair of passive sacs inflating and deflating with easy rhythm. They are not cavernous. At cell scale, the lungs are not open space at all. They are an infinite branching forest of tubes that narrow progressively, splitting and splitting again until they terminate in chambers called alveoli. Tiny elastic structures, roughly 0.2 of a millimeter wide. The total interior surface area of both lungs, covered in these structures, unfolds to approximately 70 square meters. That is larger than most studio apartments. It is the surface area of a tennis court, compressed into the space inside your chest. At cell scale, the alveolus wall is less than 1 cell thick, a translucent membrane that is the only barrier between the air you breathe and your bloodstream. When a breath comes in, that entire 70 square meters expands outward in under 2 seconds. Pale pink, translucent, branching in every direction. You are 1 cell in a structure larger than the room you are sitting in right now. The lungs do not feel small. You do. The stomach is where the body stops being polite. Gastric acid sits at a pH of roughly 1.5 to 3.5, comparable to the acid in a car battery. The stomach lining replaces itself every 3 to 5 days, specifically, because the acid destroys it continuously. This is not a malfunction. This is the design. The interior surface is heavily folded into ridges and canyons that, at cell scale, resemble geological formations. Deep grooves coated in a mucus layer roughly 1 millimeter thick, which is the only thing preventing the stomach from digesting itself. The muscular walls contract in churning waves, grinding and turning their contents. At cell scale, those contractions are enormous. The environment is also not static. It is getting more hostile in real time as acid production ramps up in response to food. You would not survive 5 seconds in the stomach by any reasonable measure. Fortunately, your cells do not get a vote on this. After the stomach, the small intestine sounds like a relief. It is not a relief. The small intestine stretches roughly 6 to 7 meters in length, longer than most living rooms. But the interior surface is not a smooth tube. It is covered in finger-like projections called villi, each about 1 millimeter tall. Each villus is itself covered in even smaller projections called microvilli. Together, they expand the surface area to approximately 250 square meters, which is larger than the lungs, larger than a tennis court, roughly the size of a basketball court. At cell scale, the villi are enormous pillars swaying in digestive fluid. Behind you, waves of muscular contraction, called peristalsis, move toward you every few seconds. And you are not alone. The gut microbiome, the population of bacteria living permanently in the intestine, numbers in the trillions. At cell scale, you are a minority organism in an extraordinarily crowded environment. You are not the dominant life form in your own body. Scale the thought up, and it does not get more comfortable. The liver is where the body does its chemistry, not some of its chemistry. More than 500 distinct functions running simultaneously in an organ roughly the size of a football. The liver is organized into repeating hexagonal units called lobules. Each one a self-contained processing structure, roughly 1 to 2 millimeters across. Blood from two separate sources, the hepatic artery and the portal vein, flows into each lobule and converges at its center. At cell scale, the architecture is geometric, dense, and relentlessly active. No open space, no idle surfaces. Every wall lined with hepatocytes, liver cells so biochemically active they appear visibly packed with internal machinery. 500 functions, no observable rest state. The liver does not have a quieter moment to visit. The only organ that might is the one that knows you are taking this tour. The brain is the one doing all of this, processing the heart's rhythm, regulating the stomach, interpreting whatever the intestine is currently managing. 5 seconds inside, it is a different kind of experience. The brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each capable of up to 10,000 connections with other neurons. At cell scale, the branching structure is a three-dimensional jungle extending in every direction. And yet, the overwhelming impression would not be chaos. It would be stillness. Signals fire in sparse, targeted patterns. Not the continuous electrical storm people imagine, but brief, precise flashes against a background of quiet. The entire system runs on roughly 20 watts of power, equivalent to a dim reading lamp. The most complex known structure in the observable universe is running, right now, on less energy than it takes to charge a phone. Occasional flashes of electrical activity. Long branches reaching through the dark. The brain is the only organ that is, in some sense, aware it is an organ. The only one that could watch this video and disagree. Here's what all of that adds up to. You are not one environment. You are a collection of radically different places. Pressurized chambers, acid pools, dense populations of other organisms, geometric processing networks, all running at the same time, all maintained without a single conscious instruction from you. The body is not elegant machinery. It is barely controlled chaos held together by relentless, overlapping maintenance happening every second of your life. You have never visited any of these places. They have never needed you to. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.